So therefore, it's very important to intensify the participation of women in the formal workforce. Now, when we think of bringing them into the formal labor force, we require skill building. And that skill building is a process because vocational education is seriously lacking in our formal education system as well. So for rural women or those from economically weaker backgrounds, manual labor is still the most easily available work. And there is a great need to properly skill this large workforce so that they can become a major part of the economy. So let's hear first from Mr. Bajpai from SIDBI, that's the Small Industries Development Bank of India, as to what SIDBI is doing for women and also what are their focus areas. Over to you, Mr. Bajpai.
Yeah, thank you, Elsa. A very good evening to everyone. It's a great honor and privilege to speak today at this panel on economic empowerment of rural women in India and to learn from the experiences of all of you on this significant subject. As SIDBI celebrates 32nd year of our foundation, we are striving towards a newer and renewed Vision 2.0, when we aim at single window for financial and developmental needs, while creating a strong, vibrant, and globally competitive MSME ecosystem. We are aiming at promoting an entrepreneurship culture by playing the role of facilitator for the MSME ecosystem. We are also trying to position ourselves as a preferred and customer-friendly institution. Like Elsa told, India is a 1.3 billion strong engine of innovation for the world. The defining models and solutions of the coming decade, which may be adopted globally, are now emerging in India. We at SIDBI truly acknowledges that if we have to meet the ambitious sustainable development goals, financial inclusion of women should be central. Ensuring access to the formal financial system for women can provide economic security, reduce inequality and poverty, and promote jobs, better health, and education. Our three-pronged approach for achieving this is through policy advocacy, access to finance, and financial literacy and women empowerment. We aim at enhancing women capacity to tackle financial and gender barriers so that they may raise their voice. Instead of having women search for the opportunities, we go to the women in far-flung areas and encourage them to come out of their homes and participate in skill training programs, thereby initiate their own venture. We ensure ripple impact by empowering women to further provide skill training to other women. This ensures long-term sustainability of our programs. To provide level playing field to existing entrepreneurs, we support them with skill and entrepreneurship training, credit linkage, as well as market linkages. Carrying forward the strong legacy of PSIG programs supported by FCDO, as Elsa told, SIDBI has set up Solomon Research Facility, that is SRF, at our New Delhi office. Under the umbrella of SRF, we aim at innovating for wider impact and to benefit the micro and small enterprises in both setting up as well as stepping up, thereby leading to economic growth of the sector by way of generating more employment. We have a humble vision of bringing a radical shift in the outlook and approach of being a Swavlambi by spreading the culture of entrepreneurship and transforming youth from job seekers to job creators, thereby restricting the need for rural migration to urban areas, and in the process promoting sustainable livelihood opportunities with thrust on bottom of pyramid, unserved and underserved pockets, especially women. With this objective of promoting entrepreneurship culture, we recently institutionalized Swavlamban Challenge Fund to crowdsource innovative and outcome-driven solutions to development changes. Challenge Fund challenges status quo for differentiator or transformational engagement and provides an opportunity to test and scale those proof of concept. The underlying principle is the I3 concept, where proposals of inclusive, innovative, and impactful nature can only pass through. It promotes projects that create jobs, leverage investments, and markets to stimulate resilience and sustainable income. It's simple, like you have any idea with yourself. You come to us, maybe that you don't have fund, you come to us, in fact, we received in the first window around more than 300 applications. So if we found the proposal which is passing through this I3 concept, we will sanction it, we will sanction the fund and you can implement it. So in fact, after successful completion of first window of Swavlamban Challenge Fund, SIDBI has also launched second window of SCF and successfully closed it last week only. More such cohorts shall be announced soon in line with our continued vision to accelerate the attainment of sustainable development goals. And one of the engagement through window 1 of Swavlamban Challenge Fund has been with Red Dot Foundation, where 100 marginalized rural women are being supported to start their own micro enterprise or get jobs in the tourism and wellness industry in the states of Goa, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. So this project, the Red Dot Foundation, in partnership with SIDBI, is developing a curriculum which may be adapted for future life skill programs in the hospitality sector and shall host a technology platform to ensure market linkages. SIDBI has been engaged in village, district, and state level initiatives, and the good models that have been validated are being replicated. Challenge Fund intertwined with these to take development to the next level. Overall, the initiative is transforming around 10,000 lives directly and envisages to improve quality of life for another 1 lakh people. With this, I would like to thank all of you for making me part of this discourse today and giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I really look forward to the enriching discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vajpayee. So I want to first of all thank you for selecting us and believing in the project. It's an experiment that we are running. The reason why we pick tourism and hospitality is because often we've noticed that when we go to rural women, we have an idea of what they want. And we often take easy ways out in providing them life skills. But we have taken a different approach to say, if they themselves have an idea within their own community on how they can bring the local to the national and the national to the local. So for example, all of us go on holidays all over the world, and say, for example, Thailand, we go and we enjoy their food, and then we may take a Thai cooking class. Why not learn about the various cuisines in India from that woman? So we are trying to create an experiential, experiential product or service that a woman in a village or in a rural area can offer to the rest of India, but also to the rest of the world. And in doing so, we can also understand each other, the diversity of our culture, and appreciate each other better. It's a peace building tool as well. So thank you for believing in us. I have one question for you. Are you excited for from all the innovations that are coming up with the various Swavlamban challenges? You've already closed the second window, and I'm sure there are a range of diverse initiatives that are taking jobs to rural India. Are you excited that this will really change the nature of labor force participation?
Yeah, definitely, Elsa. In fact, we are too much excited. Like I told you in the window 1, we received around 289 applications, and your project was also one of them. And all the projects which we choose finally, means after 289, we choose around 12 applications, and all of them are excellent. Well, in fact, when we inaugurated it, launched the project, you were also there. Our CMD launched the project, and the results were announced by CMD as well as the MSME secretary. So after this first window, in fact, before closing of the first window itself, we launched the second window, and the response was really overwhelming. And we received around 415 applications in the second window, and we closed it in the record time. So we are definitely receiving very good proposals and planning to launch the third window very soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So we are now going to go to our panelist. So before we go there, I want to just explain what this new project of ours is. We will be working in the 3 states of Western India, that's Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Goa, to identify 100 women from marginalized backgrounds in the rural setting, where we will provide them with skills to set up their own community-based products and services in the hospitality and tourism sector. So training them to be, yoga teachers, inviting people to come on nature trails, being tour guides, hosting culinary classes, including if they run handicrafts, they can, instead of just selling you the basket, they can teach you how to make the basket. So that's the latest project. And so I'm now going to invite Pratima Manohar, who is my partner on this project. She is the co-founder of Place Explore, which is the marketplace linking these services to the tourism sector, which is travel agents, hotels, and even guests. So over to you, Pratima.
Thank you, Elsa. I just want to kind of give you a quick story about how Place Explore, in a way, started. And I think we have to go back to March 2020 for that. This was the week of my birthday. I think I'd just come back from Delhi and I'd come to my home native village of Udupi. On March 24th, if you remember that day, overnight, our Prime Minister, announced the national-wide lockdown in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I remember that day very clearly because, I was very happy to be back home with my family and not get stuck in another city during that time. And I think we had about 700 cases across the nation at that point in time. And, we were wondering what this pandemic was all about. But I think the weeks that passed post this is something that all of us have to pay attention to. We probably had the biggest mass reverse migration into our cities that was unprecedented in scale. It probably only had happened in the past during the partition. You saw women and men, the blue collar migrant workers of our cities actually walk back to their villages because they were daily wage workers and they usually do not have a permanent home. They live in the informal communities of our cities like Mumbai and Bangalore. They don't have access to sanitation and water. And overnight, this group of people were very visible to the rest of us. And if you just Google those images of migrant workers walking back post our pandemic, you will see how exposed our social infrastructure was. We as urbanists, I've always heard about how more than 50% of Mumbai lived in slums and 30% of Bangalore lived in slums. We were able to see this in a visual. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic really deepened the pre-existing inequalities. It really bared the social, political, economic structures open. And you actually saw that women and girls actually suffered the most socioeconomic impacts of COVID-19. And I was in the village and so many women, girls from these villages who had worked, who had entered the workforce had come back. My family business is in hospitality. So, and my father had just passed away 3 or 4 months before the pandemic in November 2019. So I had, inherited this business and I saw the tourism economy around us collapse overnight. And you had this whole group of, young population, women and men without jobs overnight. And, we saw that our economic models had not worked. As an urbanist, we were always speaking about the urban-rural linkages in development and talking about the right model of economic development where rural and urban development was about sharing prosperity and ensuring the benefits of development reached all its citizens, whether you lived in mega cities or towns or rural setting. Those were our goals, but you saw how that vision had failed during this pandemic. And those 2 years, I mean, I'll encourage you to do this. I and Elsa, with the Urban Vision and Red Dot Foundation, we hosted a series of conversations on inclusive development. And, we wanted to see more examples of made in local movements and community-based entrepreneurship and new economic models where locals, thrived, and there were jobs in rural areas. So in a way, the Place Explore Lab originated from there, where we said, can we create a micro entrepreneurship incubator, which had gender empowerment at its heart, where we could train and upskill. We didn't really have to train them in original skills. These were amazingly talented individuals. They were great cooks, crafts people. They had great artistic traditions, and we were just empowering them with life skills, learning of entrepreneurial skills, and giving them access to mentorship and resources, and giving them access to the market and creating market linkages. And we are so happy about the support from SIDBI to carry forward this agenda. We are now in the process of recruiting 100 women across three different states. And it really is about enabling the made in local movement and about enabling inclusive economic development. If you look at just tourism as an industry, I think this program and initiative allows for greater economic benefits for local, and it also allows you to preserve cultural heritage. And so with the Place Explore Lab, we are not just a tourism training platform, but we've actually built a digital platform to enable more made in local movements, which connect these micro entrepreneurs to tourists for visiting through hotels, and also connecting them to online travel economy. So we are in a way, enabling their kind of digitization, and it's been a great journey, and I'm happy to see some of these women entrepreneurs having their own livelihood and self-employment in the village.
Thanks.
So yeah. Thanks,
Pratima. And, honestly, when you empower her, you empower all the people around her. And we will see when we talk to the two women later. So now I want to invite Smita Mankar to share her experiences.
Hi, Elsa. Thank you for having me, and what an amazing group to be speaking with. And Pratima, thank you for that backdrop, because it feeds in absolutely directly to how Creative Dignity came about, which was also in April 2020, when quite spontaneously in a WhatsApp group, a lot of us who had been part of the craft sector came together, just out of concern for the artisans and craftspeople who are also daily wage earners. Craftspeople also, if they do not sell their product, if they do not work, they do not have money to eat. And very quickly, from across the country, people within the sector came together. We were able to run a fundraising campaign, get out relief quickly, but also, so the plan was really the first 3 months was very immediate relief. And then we said over a 6-month period, we wanted to support a rejuvenation and a rehabilitation, which meant helping them to sell the piles and piles of unsold stock that they had. And because all channels of sales had dried up, there was no shipping, there was no sale, there were no exhibitions. And what we did at Creative Dignity is a digital literacy program, where we helped remotely. Of course, please understand, everything was remote. Everyone sitting in different parts of the country. But we paired up one design student. We partnered with a couple of design institutes, IICD in Jaipur, Srishti Institute in Bangalore. And we got the students to handhold and support an artisan who had stock with them to create a catalog. And this was a super partnership because and we taught them photography online with whatever phones that they had. Someone in their neighborhood had a smartphone. We taught them how to use brickwork or ladders or their own environment as really beautiful backdrops. And very soon we had 300 digital catalogs, ready in a very simple format. On our side, we could then tie up with about a dozen online platforms, Jaipur, Freedom Tree, Go Co-op. There are a dozen of them you can see on our website. And with that matchmaking, having digital catalogs ready, putting in place a very simple payment and shipping system, and having online marketplace, not trying to create everything from scratch, but really partnering to leverage, the infrastructure that already existed. We could get these people online and selling, and for most of them, it was first time that they were going digital, first time that they were selling directly to customers, first time that, that they were selling retail, because many of them were used to kind of these wholesale, you receive an order, you produce, you deliver, and that's the end of the engagement. You really don't see where your final product is going. So this, having almost 200 artisans go digital for the first time, sell almost, in the first round, of course, about 1.5 crores of stock, over a couple of years, 5 crores of stock. So this really was impact that Creative Dignity could create very quickly in a very short period of time. We had state level partners as well. We had FICCI Flow in Gujarat, and then that became a national campaign to promote it. So it was very heartening, and that work has continued. We now, Creative Dignity has a further partnership with Digital Empowerment Foundation, and we're looking at both delivering training online, but also, helping them become digital entrepreneurs. So they're directly. So it's not that artisans need to be dependent. So I think that's similar to what you're trying to do in the hospitality space. We're saying artisans can be their own entrepreneurs. They can be independent. They have that agency. So this was, again, something that came out of, COVID lockdown, but worked really well and is continuing.
I think what really struck me in your thing as well as in ours is the mentoring, actually matching them with somebody else in an urban area who has the skills and who can dedicate some time to upskill them. Because sometimes, what they need is how to use the internet, how to speak English well, how to even create a post on Canva, how to make a WhatsApp digital business card, things that we take for granted, but they it doesn't come naturally or easily to them. And once they have that confidence because of this mentoring, then it's a whole different ballgame. So I love that bit. I know you want to talk about Fab India, but maybe we can do it a little later and bring in Karon now, because Karon, I think, I'd like to hear from you about, what you're doing with women in rural India.
Thank you very much, Elsa. And of course, as Smita said, wonderful to be a part of this group of really great work that's happening. We are actually in a hybrid organization. So it's Idover Impact Solution, which is a for-benefit organization. And then we've got Rise Infinity Foundation, which is, of course, a nonprofit. The way we do it is, we've been working with so many projects, and I really want to say this over here that, as Mr. Bajpai also pointed out, 298 applications, which means a lot of good work that's happening right here in India. But also, as Elsa mentioned, we are a huge country, right? So there is a lot of work that's happening, but there's a lot of work that still needs to get done, and we definitely need support. And for that, to get that support, the kind of monitoring and evaluation, the kind of impact assessment, because unfortunately, while a lot of good work is happening, a lot of it is not also known or reported or documented. I mean, Smita gave all the numbers because she's obviously doing that piece very, very well. But that's not the case for many of the smaller organizations who are struggling just to implement the project, leave alone be able to get impact assessments done or monitor and evaluate on a regular basis so that they can document and share their progress so that they can get better support from other organizations. And I think that's really, really critical. In terms of as far as where we are concerned, I mean, we really work on design of projects. We work on the monitoring and evaluation piece, creating the result frameworks. We look at impact assessments at the end of the project. And we really haven't been in the middle piece, which is the project itself. But because of the pandemic, we actually got involved in it. I think all of us learned so many different lessons during the pandemic. And with those insights and our past experience, and of course, the passion to keep moving ahead, I think we've all pivoted so beautifully, or at least redesigned our work in such a way that we have done new things now, right? And so I think that's what we did too, is we got into seed funding. Okay, and seed funding for micro enterprises. Really, it is not even micro, it is nano enterprises, right? Because they're so tiny and they're so small. Because what we saw was most of the women kept coming back to tell us through other projects that we cannot restart because we have no money. We have no money to eat, leave alone restart our businesses. And you will not believe, one of the things we did was something as small, and it was it was a very impulsive, as a lot of this happens, where someone said, even if I just had 2,000 rupees, I mean, what is 2,000 rupees, right? We're literally talking about $20 or $15, right? I can get started, because I make embroidery. I just need to buy more threads. I need, needles. And it is so small. I was like, are you kidding? Is that really what it takes? And so that's how we got started. And we said, let's just do this really quickly and help them. And it is amazing to see how quickly we got 10 women who wanted to do this and got started, and we tested that. And then we moved to 5,000 rupees, so we kept increasing the amount slowly. But one thing that we really learned from this part of it is, and I think this is something which has been reiterated by the other speakers as well, is that you cannot just give them money. They need the hand holding, they need the linkages. And we've actually designed, which takes me to the design part, we've designed a program which is called ABCD, because we believe that whether you write a thesis or whether you write a poem, you will need to know your ABCD. And it's the same thing with entrepreneurs, right? You need to know your ABCD, and these building blocks for entrepreneurs is really about access to markets, something we just spoke about, building capacity, creating linkages, and then delivering solutions or innovations that take you away from a transactional mode into doing something that can be more value driven and therefore increase your profit margin, make you more sustainable, and obviously create differentiators for you in the marketplace. So I think this is something that we have really done. But, and of course, monitoring and evaluation and impact assessments, I'm sure everybody understands those. So I'm not going to go very deep into that part of it. But what we have learned from doing monitoring and evaluation and impact assessment is what you just started with, Elsa, where you spoke about understanding what they need, the real need. And I like to think that our reports from our M&E and impact assessment projects really help our partners, I call them partners, not customers, is because they use that to get insights to really take further decisions on how they want to shape their programs and improve on it. So I think that's really been our aim when we work with these kind of projects and requirements. And that has really given so many insights that what we sit here thinking as livelihood projects, skill development projects, is not really what is required on the ground. And unfortunately, you realize that only when you're doing it at the end, that this is not what was really required. This was not intended. And this is something I really like to repeat very often, is to say that impact is always spoken of in terms of positive impact. But believe you me, there are enough of negative impact also from projects such as these that we need to keep in mind when we are designing it, when we are implementing it, and of course, when we are scaling it up. And the second is that while we are very intentional about the positive impacts, you can have intended impacts which are positive. You can have unintended positive impacts, which only when you document and you report and you assess do you realize these things as great learnings and insights, which can then be replicated as, I would never say best practices, because I think there are a lot of good practices that we need to really, really share with the world and make sure that we get them replicated. So thank you very much once again for this opportunity, and I hope this helps.
Thanks, Karan. And, I'm going to ask Pratima to switch on her video because I want to deep dive on, okay, so what do they want? What do the women want? Because that's most important. We are putting in a lot of effort, we are putting in a lot of money, and we want it to yield results and not at the end of the project realize, what we've done was negative impact. So maybe Smita, you want to, because you have a long history with Fab India and now with the other two initiatives, to really tell us what do they want?
Yeah, thanks, Elsa. So we actually asked artisans this question directly. We ran a workshop as part of Creative Dignity. And three things came out very, very clearly for us. The first was pehchan, which is a Hindi word that means identity. They want to be recognized. They want to be known for who they are and what they do, not be lost in a crowd. So that is something that is both tangible and intangible, but it came out as a very clear kind of, request. The second thing is dignity, dignity of labor, dignity in their lives, dignity in their livelihoods. So really the ability to do their work with dignity and respect was very clear, outcome as well. And I would say the third is the consistency in the work that they can do so that it becomes a steady livelihood option. It's not a side small, it's not a hobby, it's a livelihood. And it needs to be consistent and it needs to bring in an income that allows them to have this dignity and kind of support not just themselves and their families, but their communities. And we know that's where the money goes. It goes into nutrition, it goes into education and healthcare for their children. So they invest back into the community. So it's not just for them, but it really has a much deeper, broader impact.
Thanks. I think that's really important. And we must keep it central in the mind when creating those projects. Pratima, we already did a little pilot earlier to this one in Udupi, and it was really, really hard. Can you tell us, first, what do they want and what are the challenges?
I love the word pehchan that Smita used. I think a lot of micro entrepreneurs get lost in the current economic models. And I think giving them empowerment to connect directly with consumers was a big win for us. We didn't realize it when we were doing it. I think it was a learning afterwards. I think, I have to say that there are certain sectors this is easier to do in. And one of the, when we thought about enabling women, micro entrepreneurship in the rural economy, we were talking about sustainable and inclusive development. For me, that means, water, sustainable water and waste management and all of those things. And, some of those is harder in tourism. I'd say, it's not easy, but at least there's an urban consumer that is coming to the rural economy. So in a way, tourism can become the bedrock of those kind of local communities. And we had a great tech partner who was a very successful entrepreneur in the space, who built a platform like this for the hotels. So we were able to kind of fix the distribution where we could connect tourism that were arriving at hotels directly to these micro entrepreneurs. I think that training alone doesn't do it. For me, like you mentioned, mentorship is the secret sauce, and learning by doing is the secret sauce. A lot of these entrepreneurs are still not very confident. When you meet an urban consumer, there is this kind of shyness and lack of self-esteem. So we need to enable more opportunities for them to engage with these people, and there's a lot of barriers to break. I thought that I lived in the post-feminist era. I lived in, I never had to deal with patriarchy all my life. I lived in Bangalore, Mumbai, and I had a great father and grandfather. I really had never faced discrimination. So when I came to the village, and I work in urban infrastructure, so it's 100% boys club, right? But when I came, and I still didn't face discrimination. But when I came to the village, I was shocked at the level of patriarchy, right? And this is in Udupi, it's much more progressive than other parts of the country. So a lot of these women are battling long existing, structures, and they need permissions from so many people to show up for training. And those are things that I did not think we had to deal with, frankly. And, it was very naive of us. As you know, at the Urban Vision, we also have an urban innovation incubator where we work with urban entrepreneurs in a very difficult sector again. But this is a whole another, it's a different ball game. There's a lot of social structures and stigmas associated with women working. Women themselves, and there's a need for livelihood. So I think I'm learning so much, and I think, it feels very satisfying to see some of these women make a living. And it's still small steps because we are really in the pilot mode. We are in stealth mode. We are working with a very small set of, very small subset of the market. We've not really opened it up for everybody because we want them to feel confident. But there's miles to go. There's really miles to go for them to, they've so much potential, but there's just a lot of work to do.
So what you're saying is that what works in urban areas has to be rethought of when you come to the rural areas, from the training, from the design of the training, from the requirements of the training, because, whilst maybe in the urban areas, women will show up during the weekdays, what we are seeing is they are only available on a Saturday or Sunday, maybe not even on a Saturday. And even then they need 100 permissions to show up. We have to pay for their transport. We have to, make it easy for them to attend.
We have to talk to their partners and fathers and brothers. And,
and also we have to customize the training to them because not all of them are the same level. So there's much more effort that goes in when you create this platform. Karon, I love what you said, that nano funding, because again, when we are talking about urban, we are always looking at big money, but 2,000 rupees is so doable. And yet, why can't maybe even people in urban areas just sponsor one artisan, one social entrepreneur, one entrepreneur in a rural setting, so what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I think, there are wonderful platforms that actually help to do this kind of micro lending. Unfortunately, and this is something which, I have a big bone to pick for many years, is that most of it is for consumption. Okay. Very little of it goes into production. And every time we would discuss this with partners to say, can you make sure that micro lending is going more towards the production part rather than this thing? The problem is what Pratima just said. The money doesn't really go to the woman finally. The money goes to the partner or husband or father, right? So those processes, so while automation and technology is great and it's awesome to have that, no doubt you cannot, create programs at scale without that being the facilitator. You also need to understand what is the ground reality. Because if you don't go through the value chain, and that's what I kind of focus on, is the value chain, right? If you don't go through that value chain process, you're not going to understand the actual final impact on that woman. You will find that you're doing huge amount of sales at one point, but what is the trickle down effect is completely lost, right? So therefore, this is something that really I would caution many people who, kind of assume technologies that panacea for everything at all. So that's one. The second is also, when we talk about mentorship and we talk about this thing, I think the fundamental thing is that it has to be contextual. No programs can ever be designed without understanding the context. And it's not enough to just say needs assessment, right? I am not a big fan of research, okay, much as I do a lot of research, yeah, unless it's an action research orientation, right? Where you're very clear that report is not just a consultant report, to give big trends. And I have a big problem again with big data, because that's what big data gives you. It gives you fantastic trends, it gives you fantastic insights, but how does it become relevant on the ground to practitioners who are implementing there, right? How do you help? And this is the smaller things that need to be documented, need to be not research, just simply documented and shared and amplified, right? So if you can have cases like what Smita just spoke about, what Pratima just spoke about, and those things are shared. As I said, there's so many people doing great, phenomenal work. This would give them such a head start. So contextualizing, and one more thing I have to keep saying, when people used to design programs about training everybody in what we used to call ABCD, agarbattis, baskets, and candles. Okay, I was like, how many people? Or then talking about hairdressers and sewing machines and this thing. How many women will do sewing? I mean, how many people are they going to be able to cater to? How many people's cosmetics are going to, tackle? And how many beauty parlors can you do in a rural setting? So understanding the rural setting, and even that is so different. It's not just about urban-rural divide. Even within the rural, because like Pratima said, Udupi is far ahead and far progressive as compared to many other places. If you look at some of the areas like BEAD, Elsa, the BEAD project, digital, which you're also talking about, that's completely different from any other area. So the more contextual you get, the more research and planning that is done prior to even designing. Forget about the design stage, right? Planning and research, I think, is critical for us to get more successful stories out there and then taking it to scale. Yeah.
Great. So that leads me to my next question, and very quickly from all of you, what does it take to scale all these efforts up? Because we do have government schemes. We have SIDBI that gives loans to women. We have, other CSR funds, because for those who don't know, India has a CSR Act where 2% of a company's 3 years average profits must be directed to CSR activities. There's a schedule of activities listed, and this definitely falls under that. But what will it take? Smita.
Thanks, Elsa. I think what I'm going to say is really collaboration and amplifying the collaborations that are happening. Because there's a lot of good work happening, but it's happening in silos. And this has been happening over decades. It's not new. It's not a new this thing. And what tends to happen is, because learnings don't get shared, we tend to reinvent the wheel. So you go into one place, you do a training. 3 years later, the same set of women might get trained by a different NGO, right? None of that has been built on or leveraged, or it had, that loop hasn't been closed so that it becomes visible and it becomes impactful. So I would say one is, there is something called platform commons, where you start to make all your impact available, all your learnings, all your trainings open source, and start to share knowledge and collaborate, rather than trying to get the next grant, do the next training, do the next market linkage, come up with a new collection. We don't need more of that. So I would say collaborations is one. Amplify, go open source, whatever you're doing, share it. That's what we do that's one of our kind of guiding principles at Creative Dignity, that people came in putting aside their own identities, keeping the artisan at the center. And that is what worked. People in the craft sector who were competing for 30 years were at the same table talking about how do we make this work for the artisan. So really it's about putting the spotlight back on them. What do they need? What do they want? Rather than me, my organization, and what I want to do. And I would say the last piece really is this public-private partnership, which is a very, very powerful tool. And I'll just take a minute and talk about, so two things, I've worked on it at kind of in two ways. One was very big ticket out of Fab India when we set up community-owned companies. And we partnered with the government of Orissa to set up one in Orissa. And there are 3,000 artisans there who are shareholders in the company even today, right? So whatever they produce, Fab India buys, and the profits are shared across these. The other model is what there is a Indo-Dutch foundation called the Women on Wings Foundation, and they do a mentoring and deep hand-holding for social enterprises that employ women, and that their mission is to create 1 million jobs for women in rural India. Yeah, so that's the mission, and they work by bringing experts and expertise. And the newest thing that we've been doing over the last year is working with not just the National Rural Livelihood Mission, or NRLM, but at a state level with SRLM, which is the State Rural Livelihood Mission. And so SRLM has the infrastructure, they have the reach, they have the numbers. There are self-help groups that have been created that have federal structures, but they need a lot of hand-holding and mentorship. And this is exactly what Women on Wings Foundation brings. So we have a person, a state level coordinator who is on the ground, who is working hands-on at a grassroots level and bringing in training, support, and mentorship that is needed for that state. And each state is different. Like we're saying, India is not just one country, it's 300 countries. So it becomes very, very micro in terms of what you're delivering and at what pace you're delivering and how you're delivering. So, and we're seeing the impact of that, because as a international foundation committed to artisan well-being, Women on Wings is able to bring in the best practices from around the world. But it's needed, again, contextualize it, make it grassroots, deliver on the ground. And we're seeing, the magic that can do. So, listen.
Thanks for those very practical examples. What about you, Pratima? What do you think is needed to scale this effort?
When Smita was talking about the training programs, I remember all the women complaining to me when we first recruited them, saying, we've been doing training. We go to 4-5 trainings every year. Now, that doesn't really lead to livelihood, right? And we have to, establish here. I know there are people from around the world. National Rural Livelihood Mission is one of the most prominent livelihood development programs in the world. We have $6 billion dedicated to it. It has a huge amount of stakeholders who get benefited from it. It's a training, mentorship, kind of funding platform, but has it really, created livelihoods? I don't know. I mean, there should be a study on it. It's a great program. People from other countries say don't say bad things about it because they want their countries to implement something like this. But I think we need to go a step ahead and we need to reimagine how economic models work. We have to incentivize businesses and the big economy to integrate some of these agendas as part of theirs. What does that mean? Give tax benefits or lower interest rates for businesses who are embracing these principles. For example, there's a big tourism hub coming. If that development integrates local livelihood creation and entrepreneurship programs and actually delivers, on employment, it has to be real metrics. Give them a tax rebate, give them a lower interest rates. We have to reimagine the economic, we have to stimulate the economy to do the right thing. KPIs of social sustainability and all of that. Instead of just looking at things from a return perspective, PPP projects have to say, what are you doing for the environment? What are you doing for social development? Currently, it is about how much money are you giving me? That's a very, very unambitious way of looking at things. So I think for me, the way to scale this is to reimagine economic policy to deliver on some of these things. So you actually unleash the private sector, the economy to actually integrate some of these models. And I think for every industry, all of us can give you 4 or 5 very quick policy wins to enable this. If you told the hotels that we will give you a tax rebate or some kind of a low interest rate if you enable community-based tourism, they'll do it. But there has to be a real way to measure it.
Thanks. And I liked what Smita said, because even in our project, we are using the National Rural Livelihoods Mission and, building on their existing program. So, these women are part of their ecosystem, but they are not actually earning anything. So really now taking them to the next level is something that we are also looking at. Karon, from you?
Great. So I'm going to hook on to your line, taking it to the next level, right? But I'm also going to just say quickly on what Pratima said. I think what we really want is from people to move from compliance to conviction. And unfortunately, we are very stuck with compliance. And sometimes subsidies can only increase that kind of an outlook, which doesn't lead to long-term sustainability. But let me leave that for another day, hopefully. I think, when you're talking about taking it to the next level, the development sector is absolutely obsessed with 2 things. One is scale, and the second is sustainability, right? And of course, we need to do that. So there is nothing wrong with being obsessed with it. But if you have to know how to do it, then in that case, you have to be equally obsessed about the third S, and that's what we call a spread. The problem is we tend to work with this lighthouse kind of an approach, where we want these huge, big, lighthouses that can only give light at a particular point in time to a particular space, right? That's how lighthouses work, right? What we really need are a network of lampposts that provide light at the place it's required, right? And the right amount of light. What do I do with blinding light if I cannot, function in that blinding light, right? I need just the right amount of light that will allow me to really function and do what I need to get done. And a network of lights allows you to cover a far more greater area that any one large organization is going to ever be able to do. Of course, if you go by the partnership model, which Smita said, yes, maybe that can, but that is exactly what networking, what spread is about. Expand through collaborations, expand through replication, expand through sharing, right? That will lead us to the next level that you spoke about, Elsa, rather than looking at scale. And unfortunately, what happens is like what Smita said, where am I going to get my next funding from? So what happens is it's just a whole series of funding going to people who have already been funded because they've implemented the same project earlier. Give others a chance. How are they ever going to grow if it's only going to be the same people over and over and over again? right? So I think for me, spread, is really critical for us to start getting obsessed about. Replication programs, which will allow us to really take it really wide through this network of lamppost, as I call it.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita, Pratima, Karon, for giving us all those important inputs. We will now move to the next set of our program, which is with the entrepreneurs, the people who we've been discussing for so long. We do have one question from Hira, so maybe I request you to put it in the chat section, your answer to her. But thank you very much. And now I'm going to invite Miss Meenakshi Walke, who is a bamboo artisan in Maharashtra. Meenakshi, can you switch on your video, please? And Jyoti Goyal will moderate this session. Yes.
Hi.
So Meenakshi, can you please share your story?
Yeah.
अगर आप अपना वीडियो ऑन करेंगे तो हम आपको देख पाएंगे. ओके.
हेलो.
यस मीनाक्षी जी, आप अपनी कहानी बताइए, आपने कैसे शुरू किया और अभी आप क्या कर रहे हैं?
जी. नमस्कार. मैं मीनाक्षी वारके फ्रॉम चंद्रपुर, महाराष्ट्र.
मीनाक्षी, आवाज आ रही है?
हेलो. हाँ, मेरी आवाज आ रही?
Yes, we can hear you.
मैं एक बाम्बू आर्टिस्ट हूँ जो 4 साल से अभी बाम्बू में काम कर रही हूँ. हमारा छोटा सा एक ग्रुप है जिसमें लगभग 15 से 30 महिलाएं काम करती है बाम्बू का, और उनको मैं खुद सिखाती हूँ बाम्बू की चीजें बनाना, और बाहर भी ट्रेनिंग्स वगैरह भी देती हूँ. और जब मैंने स्टार्ट किया तो 4 साल पहले मैंने स्टार्ट किया बाम्बू का काम. और सबसे पहले तो मैंने ट्रेनिंग लिया बाम्बू का 70 दिन का, जबकि मैं बाम्बू के बारे में कुछ भी नहीं जानती थी. तो जब मैंने वो बाम्बू का ट्रेनिंग लिया तो मैं इस हालत में भी नहीं थी कि मैं कुछ मतलब ट्रेनिंग के लिए जाऊँ. और वो किस्सा तो मतलब मेरे जिंदगी का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण हिस्सा है जो मैं बताना चाहूंगी, क्योंकि उसके बिना मेरा बाम्बू का वर्क ही मतलब अधूरा रहता है. तो मेरा मतलब मैं प्रेग्नेंट थी, 7th मंथ चल रहा था. तो उसी दौरान तो मेरा मतलब जो बेबी है उसका पेट में ही डेथ हो गया. तो उसकी वजह से मैं बहुत ही मतलब हम लोग बहुत परेशान थे और डिस्टर्ब भी हो गए थे. तो फिर कुछ वही डिलीवरी के कुछ 15 दिन 12 दिन बाद मैंने वो ट्रेनिंग स्टार्ट किया था, क्योंकि घर में मन नहीं लग रहा था. और उसकी वजह से मैं सिर्फ अपना मन बहलाने के लिए वो ट्रेनिंग ली थी. लेकिन आज ऐसा हो गया है कि वही बाम्बू का ट्रेनिंग से अभी मेरी मतलब जिंदगी बदल गई है. तो फिर 70 दिन का ट्रेनिंग हुआ. उस ट्रेनिंग में मतलब कमजोरी की वजह से बहुत बार मैं चक्कर भी खा के गिरी थी, ऐसा वगैरह हुआ था मेरे साथ. और फिर ट्रेनिंग हुआ 70 दिन का. उसके बाद एग्जीबिशंस होते हैं, गवर्नमेंट का एग्जीबिशन था तो मैं उस एग्जीबिशन में गई थी. तो एक्चुअली मुझे पता नहीं था कि बाम्बू की चीज लोग यूज करते हैं कि नहीं करते. तो उसकी वजह से मैं मतलब जहाँ से मैंने ट्रेनिंग लिया वहीं से कुछ चीजें ली मैंने और एग्जीबिशन में गई थी. एग्जीबिशन में मैं उससे पहले भी जाती थी, लेकिन पहले तो मैं थ्रेड में काम करती थी. थ्रेड ज्वेलरी या प्लाईवुड की चीजें जैसे पूजा थाली हो गई या हल्दी कुमकुम का पानदान हो गया, की होल्डर्स हो गए, ऐसी चीजें बनाती थी. तो मैं ट्रेनिंग मतलब मुझे एग्जीबिशन का अनुभव था, तो उसकी वजह से मुझे लगा कि ये चीजों का क्या रिस्पॉन्स आता है, मतलब बाम्बू की चीजों का। उसके लिए मैं वो चीजें भी लेके गई एग्जीबिशन में। तो मतलब वहां पे ऐसा पता चला कि नहीं, लोग मतलब बाम्बू की चीजें भी यूज करते हैं। तो फिर मैंने वहीं पे तय कर लिया कि नहीं, अभी मैं बाम्बू का भी काम करूंगी। तो फिर वहां से आने के बाद मैं अकेले ही कुछ मतलब आगे दिवाली थी, तो उसकी वजह से मैं कुछ लैम्प्स के डिजाइन बनाए मैंने। तो और फिर मतलब व्हाट्सएप पे या फेसबुक पे उसका एडवर्टाइज करती थी। और उसके दौरान फिर कुछ ऑर्डर्स आते गए फेसबुक से, व्हाट्सएप से, जैसे स्टेटस रखा, फेसबुक पे स्टोरी रखी, तो ऐसे व्हाट्सएप आते गए, तो मतलब ऑर्डर्स आते गए, तो उसकी फिर रिक्वायरमेंट बढ़ी। तो फिर मैंने और 2-3 महिलाओं को सिखाया और उनको भी मतलब मेरे साथ काम करने के लिए बोला, तो वो भी मेरे साथ काम करती है। फिर ऐसे चलते चलते फिर दिवाली के बाद फिर बास्केट बनाना, मतलब रेगुलर चीजें जो लगती है, एम्पलीफायर हो गया, पेन स्टैंड हो गए, फ्लावर पॉट्स हो गए, ऐसी भी चीजें बनाने लगी। फिर फ्लैग, इंडियन फ्लैग्स हो गए, तो ये सब भी मतलब लोगों को अच्छा लगने लगा, मतलब चीजें, क्योंकि हमारा पूरा काम हाथ से होता है। हमारे पास बिल्कुल मशीन नहीं है, जैसे हैंड ग्राइंडर और हैंड ड्रिल छोड़ के, क्योंकि ड्रिल वगैरह करना पड़ता है तो वो हाथ से या किसी चीज से नहीं होता है। तो उसकी वजह से सिर्फ वो हम 2 मशीनें यूज करते हैं और बाकी पूरा हम हाथ से काम करते हैं। तो मतलब ऐसे करते करते अभी मतलब मैंने 2019 में एक ब्यूटी कॉन्टेस्ट था दिल्ली में, वहां पे वहां से मुझे एक रिक्वायरमेंट आई, तो मैंने मतलब वहां उनको क्राउन बना के देना था, जो ब्यूटी कॉन्टेस्ट के विनर वगैरह पहनते हैं। तो उसके बारे में मतलब मुझे कुछ पता नहीं था, ऐसा समझ लीजिए। फिर मैंने मतलब ट्राई किया, उन्होंने बोला आप ट्राई तो करो, मतलब 1-2 डिजाइन बना के दिखाओ आप। तो जस्ट मैंने ट्राई किया था और उनको 2 डिजाइन मतलब दिए थे मैंने बना के। तो उन्होंने फिर एक डिजाइन सिलेक्ट करके, एक डिजाइन के फिर 16 क्राउन बना के देने थे, जो 7 दिन में पॉसिबल नहीं था। फिर भी मैंने मतलब रात भर वगैरह ऐसा काम कर करके मैंने वो 7 दिन में 16 क्राउन बना के दिए। फिर मतलब उन लोगों ने ही मुझे वहाँ पे मतलब जो ब्यूटी कॉन्टेस्ट था, मिस क्लाइमेट करके था, तो मैं वहाँ पे गई, उन्होंने मुझे इनवाइट किया, तो और मेरा वहीं पे सत्कार किया गया। तो मुझे मतलब ऐसा फील हो रहा था, शायद आज बाम्बू की वजह से ही मैं मतलब वो स्टेज पे खड़ी थी जहाँ पे मेरा सत्कार हुआ। तो अभी मैंने मतलब तभी ऐसा सोच लिया कि अभी मुझे सिर्फ बाम्बू में काम करना है, जिससे मतलब मैं कुछ लोगों को भी काम दे सकती हूँ। जैसे कि अब मैंने बताया कि 15 से 30 महिलाएं काम करती है मेरे साथ, और अभी फिलहाल राखी का भी काम चल रहा है। पिछले साल हम लोगों ने लगभग 17,000 राखियां बनाई थी, जो कि 5 देशों में भी गई थी, इंडिया और प्लस 5 कंट्रीज, जैसे लंदन हो गया, स्विट्जरलैंड हो गया, स्वीडन हो गया, ऐसे 5 देशों में भी गई थी। तो ऐसे मतलब हमारा काम स्टेप बाय स्टेप ऐसे बढ़ता गया, और अभी मतलब हम लोग जो काम करते हैं वो पूरा मतलब सामाजिक इसके लिए करते हैं, ताकि लोगों को रोजगार मिले, और उनसे मतलब कुछ लेडीज जो है जिनके हस्बैंड मतलब ज्यादा कमाते तो नहीं है, लेकिन उनको बाहर काम पे भी नहीं जाने देते, तो ऐसे लोगों को भी मैं उनके घर जाके मतलब बुलाती हूँ कुछ दिनों के लिए, मतलब रोज दोपहर को आओ, कुछ सीखो। बाद में मैं उनको बताती हूँ कि ऐसा ऐसा बनाओ, तो फिर वो बना लेती है और अपने घर में जाके भी काम करती है। और ये काम हम लोग बंगाली कैंप का जो एक झोपड़पट्टी है वहाँ पे करते हैं। मैं खुद वहीं पे रहती हूँ। और मतलब एक बाजू में एक गांव है बोरडा करके, वहाँ पे भी लगभग 20 महिलाओं को मैंने ट्रेनिंग दिया है। और अभी वो 20 महिलाएं भी हमारे साथ राखी का काम करती है। और
एक मिनट ज्योति अभी ट्रांसलेट
Yes.
करेगी।
थैंक यू मीनाक्षी जी, आपने जो भी बोला मैं इंग्लिश में बता देती हूँ. So Meenakshi is saying that she took training on bamboo 4 years ago, and there is a story behind how she got involved in this. She had a miscarriage, and she was very upset because of that. To overcome the stress and to utilize her time, she joined this training, and she didn't know that this training will change her life forever. And she is right now very happy with the work. And she even shared that during the training she fainted sometimes, but she continued her training and completed it. She went to a government exhibition event and showed her work. She had knowledge and experience because she had worked on other things like making material of worships like agarbatti and other things. So she said that utilizing her existing knowledge and skills, she started to display her work in exhibitions. And she also advertised her work through Facebook and WhatsApp stories, which really helped her to get more orders. The requirement of bamboo products from her increased day by day, and now there are many women working with her. She has recently trained 20 women to work on the bamboo products, and the products also have increased the kind of product they are making. So now they make baskets, pen stand, flag, flower pot, etc. So, and most of the work is done by hand, and they use only limited machines which are really necessary. And once she got an order from a beauty contest in Delhi, and they asked her to create a crown, and she had to make 16 crowns in 7 days, which was quite a challenging task. But she did it, and she was invited and praised on that platform, on that beauty contest. That was really a significant step in her life. And right now she feels that she is really happy with what she is doing, and she hopes to employ more women and train more women in this work, especially those women whose husband are not earning very well and they are not allowed to even do job. She wants to engage such women more, and she is living in the area where she engages women, train them and employs them. So this was her story. And Meenakshi, we would like to ask you, हम आपसे पूछना चाहेंगे कि आप क्या चाहती हैं कि किस तरीके की मदद आपको और मिले ताकि आपका काम और बढ़ सके.
जी, हमको तो मतलब अभी इतने लेडीज हो गई है कि अभी फिलहाल थोड़ा काम मतलब कम पड़ता है, थोड़ा बहुत तो मतलब थोड़ा सा मार्केटिंग में थोड़े से कम पड़ जाते हैं हम लोग, क्योंकि वो न्यूज़पेपर में बहुत ज्यादा पैसे लेकर न्यूज़ लगाते हैं, तो और मतलब हम माउथ पब्लिसिटी तो करते ही है, लेकिन जैसे बाहर के जो भी ऑर्डर्स होते हैं, जैसे हम फिलहाल ऑल ओवर इंडिया में भी सप्लाई करते हैं, लेकिन वो क्या होता है ना कि एडवर्टाइजमेंट थोड़ा कम हो जाता है, मतलब अभी 20 और ये 30 महिलाएं, लगभग 50 महिलाएं हो गई, तो उसके हिसाब से काम थोड़ा कम हो जाता है। जैसे मुझे अभी एक वर्कशॉप बनाना है, मतलब जो लेडीज घर के बाहर मतलब अभी मतलब पैसे कमाने लग गई वो, तो उनके हस्बैंड भी अभी साथ देने लग गए हैं, बोलते हैं जाओ आप, मतलब मेरे पास भेजने के लिए भी तैयार है। तो अभी उसके लिए मुझे एक वर्कशॉप भी बनाना है जिसमें एटलीस्ट मतलब 15 तो नहीं, लेकिन लगभग 20-30 महिलाएं काम कर सके, और उसकी भी कोशिश जारी है। और मैं बाम्बू ज्वेलरी भी बनाती हूँ। उसके लिए मुझे एक मतलब सॉरी फैशन शो भी लेना है, जो बाम्बू ज्वेलरी का। तो ऐसे सब मतलब मेरी रिक्वायरमेंट, मतलब मेरा प्रयास जारी है कि ये सब मैं जल्द से जल्द कर सकूं, और जो मतलब काम करते हैं लोग, उनके लिए मतलब सुविधाएं, जैसे हाथ से काम करते हैं तो बहुत ज्यादा टाइम लगता है। उसमें अगर कट मशीन रह गया, मतलब एक सिंपल बात बताती हूँ मैं। जैसे अब हम अभी आरी से काटते हैं वो बाम्बू को, तो जब कटिंग मशीन रहेगा तो उसको 2 मिनट में कट जाएगा, और आरी से काटने के लिए एटलीस्ट 10 मिनट लगते हैं। तो उनका टाइम भी बचेगा, और मतलब उनको ज्यादा पैसे भी मिलेंगे। तो ऐसी हमारी कोशिश जारी है, बाकी देखते हैं।
ठीक है, धन्यवाद मीनाक्षी जी। आपने जो बोला मैं इंग्लिश में बता देती हूँ। So Meenakshi has shared that now more and more women are connecting with her, and they also need some sustainable platform wherein they can work and uh, uh, earn. And also she has shared that we need to do more advertisement, and we need more platforms wherein we can do advertisement of our work. And since most of the work is being done through hands, which takes time and efforts, so if we have more machines to do that, it will be really helpful. So these are the things which Meenakshi has shared that she would need help in. And मीनाक्षी जी, काफी लोगों का रिस्पॉन्स आया है, और आपको बहुत धन्यवाद, और बहुत सराह रहे हैं कि आप इतना अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं और इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हैं। तो थैंक यू।
थैंक यू।
To you, Elsa.
Do you want to introduce Asma?
Sure. Okay. The next person who would be coming to speak is Asma Sheikh, who is a digital Sakhi from AFAM organization. Digital Sakhi means a lady who is entrepreneur and uh, working on printing Aadhaar cards, PAN card, and in her village she is running a shop wherein she works on these things. So Asma जी, हम चाहेंगे कि आप आए और अपने बारे में बताएं। आप पहले क्या करते थे और आपने कैसे शुरू किया? So and I request to pin Asma. Yes Asma, आप अपनी कहानी बताइए।
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. मैं आसमा शेख, L&T फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज मुंबई, आफाम पुणे, अभिनव भारत समाज सेवा मंडल साल से। इसके थ्रू मैं सोलापुर जिले में रायगांव में डिजिटल सखी का काम करती हूँ। तो मैं डिजिटल सखी का काम करने से पहले एक फार्मर वर्कर थी, जो दूसरों के खेत में जाके काम किया करती थी। उससे घर का गुजारा हो जाता था। उसके बाद मैं अपनी छोटी बेटी को आंगनवाड़ी छोड़ने जाती थी। मेरा एजुकेशन है SYB.com किया है मैंने। उसके साथ साथ मैंने MSc टैली भी किया है। जब मैं वहां पे आंगनवाड़ी में छोड़ने जाती थी, तब वो वहां की जो आंगनवाड़ी की मददनीश थी, वो हमेशा मुझे बोलती थी कि तुम इतनी पढ़ी लिखी हो, कुछ क्यों नहीं करती। तो मैंने उन्हीं से कहा था कि अगर कुछ काम आए तो आप मुझे बता सकते हैं। इसी तरह हमारे इस काम के टीम के जो क्लस्टर मैनेजर है, उन्होंने उनसे पूछा कि यहाँ कोई पढ़ा लिखा है जो ये काम कर सकता है। तो उन्होंने मेरा नाम बताया। मेरा नाम बताने के बाद उनका नंबर लेकर मैंने उनसे कॉल किया, उनसे बात की। उन्होंने मेरे को काम सिखाया, काम समझाया। काम करने के बाद मैं काम करने लगी। डेली काम गांव में ही काम था, काम करने लगी। काम के साथ साथ हमें पुणे में ट्रेनिंग दिया गया, जिससे हम और लोगों के घर पे जाके शासकीय योजना रहती, उसकी मालूमात देने लगे। डिजिटल मोड ऑफ पेमेंट, इसके बारे में हमने लोगों को सिखाया, जैसे कि फोन पे, गूगल पे, भीम ऐप, इसके बारे में बताया। अकाउंट ओपनिंग, ATM कार्ड, पैन कार्ड ये बना के देने लगे। ये करते करते अब भी मेरा अपना सेवा केंद्र है, जो मुझे इसी के थ्रू मिला है। उस सेवा केंद्र में मैं अभी भी पूरे ऑनलाइन काम करती हूँ, जैसे कि पैन कार्ड, आधार कार्ड, गैजेट, वापस से जो शासकीय दाखिले, इसका काम करती हूँ। मंथली मेरा इनकम अभी कम से कम 10,000 तक होता है। अप्रैल में जो प्रधानमंत्री पिक बीमा था उसके साथ साथ हमने 20,000 मंथली कमाया है।
Thank you, Asma. So I'll translate. Asma used to work as a farm worker earlier, and she has done BCom and the course of Tele. She used to drop her daughter to Anganwadi, and there she met a woman, and they asked her, "You are so much educated. You should work here, and you can get some earning also." So she started working there, and then gradually she got chance to do a training in Pune through a farm organization where they learn digital services, learn how to provide digital services to people. Services like Dream app, Google Pay app, Aadhaar card services, and other services. And then gradually through the training, they have opened their own Seva Kendra. Now Asma is running her own Seva Kendra from past 5-6 months, and she is earning minimum 10,000 through this Seva Kendra. And during some schemes, when there are some schemes on peak time of the year, they even earn more than that, and around 20,000. This is story of Asma. And now Asma, हम आपसे पूछना चाहेंगे आप क्या चाहते हैं और आप इस काम को और आगे बढ़ाने में किस तरीके की मदद चाहते हैं?
मैं ऐसा चाहती हूँ मैडम, जैसे कि मेरा सेवा केंद्र है, मेरे को मंथली कम से कम 10,000 इसमें मिल जाता है। मैं इसका इनकम बढ़ाना चाहती हूँ। इससे मेरे को इतना ही जानना है कि हमारे गांव में बैंक नहीं है, जो मैं अभी ऑनलाइन अकाउंट ओपन करके देती हूँ, एटीएम ये बनाना, या फिर जो जीवन ज्योति बीमा, सुरक्षा बीमा, अटल पेंशन, ये जो शेतकरियों के लिए योजना है, इसके लिए मुझे करमला जाना लगता है लोगों को ओपनिंग करके देने के लिए। मैं वो सुविधा अपने यहाँ पे ओपनिंग करना चाहती हूँ, जैसे कि मुझे किसी बैंक का बीसी पॉइंट या कुछ मिले तो मैं ये काम कर सकती हूँ। इससे लोगों का भी फायदा होगा और मेरा भी इनकम बढ़ जाएगा। Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So Asma has shared that there is no bank in her village, and to provide and to link people to the bank, she has to go to far places. If there is any way that she can, in her village, provide bank services, connect people to bank services, that would be really great help. आसमा, आप बताना चाहेंगे कि मेंटरिंग प्रोग्राम ने आपको कैसे मदद किया? लास्ट टाइम आपने जो रेड डॉट फाउंडेशन के साथ मेंटरिंग प्रोग्राम किया था, उसने आपको किस तरीके से मदद किया अपने सेवा केंद्र को चलाने में?
तो उस प्रोग्राम में मेरे को किरण मैडम ने, ज्योति मैम ने और बाकी सब ने हेल्प किए। उसकी वजह से मैंने बैंक को मैनेजर से जाकर मिला। वापस से मेरी आर्थिक स्थिति कमजोर होने की वजह से जो मैं पैसा भर नहीं सकती थी, इसके लिए मैंने मदद बैंक लोन के लिए जो प्रोजेक्ट रहता ना, वो प्रेजेंट किया था। वापस से मेरे को मेरा बिजनेस किस तरह से बढ़ाना चाहिए, इसके लिए मुझे किरण मैडम ने बहुत सपोर्ट किया है। वापस से जो लोगों के सामने, जो जैसे सरपंच, ग्राम सेवक, इनके सामने जाने की हिम्मत भी नहीं थी, उनकी वजह से उनके साथ बात करने की और उनसे मदद मांगने की हिम्मत जो मेरे को मिली। उसके बाद मैंने उनसे अपना, जब मेरा खुद का दुकान नहीं था, शॉप नहीं था, तो मैंने उनसे उनका जो ग्राम पंचायत का रूम रहता है वो भी मांगा था। इस तरह से मेरे को इस प्रोग्राम से बहुत अच्छी सी मदद हुई थी, जिससे मैं आगे कुछ तो कर सकूं, और इसका फायदा बहुत हुआ है मेरे को। 100% तो फायदा लेने की कोशिश की है मैंने इससे।
Okay, so Asma is saying that through the mentoring program, she learned how to present herself in front of Gram Panchayat and bank managers so as to get loan and so as to get space for her work. So she got that confidence and ability to present her work through the mentoring program. Thank you, Asma. आपका जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Thank you, Asma. Thank you, Meenakshi. And thank you, Jyoti, for doing such a fantastic job of, translating it. I want to ask anyone, do you have any questions for any of our speakers, any of our entrepreneurs? Please post it in the chat section. So I'm getting a lot of private messages saying that it's a very insightful conversation. So I'm just going to ask, Karon, Prathama, and Smita to share last words. And also we have Rashmi from AFAM. So I want to ask Rashmi also, if she can switch on her video and come online, then she can share, what they actually implement the L&T finance project with the digital Sakhis. So we can also find out from her what women want. So Rashmi, are you able to switch on your video?
Hello. Yeah, I'm driving. Just give me a 1 minute. I will just take my car. Yes.
Okay, fine. In the
Give
meantime,
me a 1 minute.
yeah,
1 minute only.
Yeah, sure. So Smita, what were your reflections hearing them?
Thanks, Elsa. It's been, there's always so much more to learn, but I think it's been so heartening to hear the resonance in what each of us have said. I think each of us have really resonated with the experiences, the learning, the challenges, but also the successes that we've seen in our work. And all I would say is let's continue to really collaborate wherever we can to amplify each other's work, and to really remember that it isn't a one size fits all when it comes to solutions of this nature. So to that extent, we have to keep building, keep learning, and keep implementing, and just keep going, and we will see the impact as we already are. But this is a long haul. These are not overnight solutions or transitions. So we keep at it, and hopefully each generation has a better life than the one before them.
Thanks, Smita. I like that one size doesn't fit all. And what I also picked up from all our conversations and from the work that we've done, none of these women are selfish. They always think of their larger community. And if they pick up a skill and they are successful, they start transforming the people around them. So like, for example, Meenakshi started and now she has 30 women, and plus she's training everyone and so on and so forth. And I think Rashmi can also testify to that. So Rashmi, I see you're online. So can you share a little bit about what do women want in your program?
Actually, when we started this program, women are very, you can say that nobody is having their own mobile. That was the biggest problem what we have faced in early phase. Like in 2017, when we started that program, Digital Sakhi, with the financial support of L&T Financial Services. That time, mobile is there in the home. That black wala mobile, simple feature phone, you can say that. But the ownership is means the phone was owned by her husband. So she don't allow to use that mobile, because as you experience or we experience being in women, when we bought some electronic medium, or you can say that television at home, first the remote goes to husband's hand. The man will operate everything, and everybody says it's not the you don't know how to use it, so don't touch that. And women also believe at the same time she's not able to use this technology. But through this Digital Sakhi program, we are trying to convince them, yes, you have that skill, and you can use that skill for your upliftment. And as you mentioned, for the community, as you mentioned very rightly, women are not selfish at all. They always think about their ecosystem, their family, their community, and their society, of course. These women are, when we selected women as a digital Sakhi, why we are not selected digital Sakha, you can say that, because the man is for only for their town, but the women at the same time, she take care of her, you can say Sasural and Maika at the same time. So if we are selected her for one village, then she will automatically high aspiration. They wants to do something, because they are educated, but they didn't get the chance to prove herself in their society, and this project give them the chance so that they can prove themselves within their family and within their societies. So yeah, and of course, ice on the cream, your mentorship also give them the new you can say new EDP entrepreneurship skills what we had also given. But yes, this is also like very useful for all digital sakis. Of course, the number
I think Rashmi lost connection, but what she's trying to say is what Smita also said, I think, and Karon said, that we need to build on existing programs and just keep reinforcing the message. So thank you, Rashmi. You've been a great partner and we've enjoyed working with you. Karon, last words, reflections from you, and then Pratima.
Yeah, so I think the word unprecedented has been used so much with the pandemic, and so has the word resilience. But also what I think would like to also talk about here is persistence in the face of failure, right? I think when we talk of documentation, I think we need to also document failures, not because they are failures, but as the saying goes, stepping stones to success. So if we can share that, I think that would be another very major need and a major step towards the right direction of strengthening programs and making sure we do it right as much as possible the first time around itself.
Thanks, Karon. Yes, Rashmi, you were saying something. You're on mute. I think her connection is really bad. Yes, go ahead, Pratima, last words. And we are really out of time now.
I think that somebody said that empower women and you empower the community. I think I'm so inspired to hear the, women entrepreneurs from the villages, and that's what they demonstrated, right?
Yes.
And we need more of that type of development in this world desperately, and we need women to run our countries and our institutions, and it has to start at the grassroots. So, this is great.
Yeah.
And we are the vanguard generation in a way, and kind of we've benefited from the last 3 decades of women empowerment programs, and I think it's time to up it.
Thanks, Pratima. I think Rashmi wants to say a few words, so please, Rashmi, go ahead. Okay, so I think we've run out of time completely, but I really want to thank everyone, Mr. Bajpai from SIDBI, Smita, Karon, Pratima, Rashmi, Meenakshi, Jyoti, as well as Asma. So thank you, everyone. And if everyone's fine, maybe we can do a quick picture. So if you can just switch on your videos, we can do a quick video.
What I'm saying is next time whenever you are going to conduct this type of program, add more women so that they can also take benefit out of this program. That is my request. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Sure, we'll do that. So what Rashmi is talking about, when the Swedish Alumni Network decided to build on the program, we facilitated about 10 digital Sakhis. I think we wanted 8. We ended up with 10 or 12. And she says the need is much bigger. So have a bigger program of mentoring in the future. But thank you. And if I request everyone to switch on their videos, we can take a screenshot. So Okay, thank you, everyone. It was lovely meeting all of you, and we will send the recording around as well.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Asma. Very